Hey, I'm T.A. Charlie, and welcome to The Road to Concord with Professor Joe Bakanovic. Homeroom is on Rumble. You just go to Rumble and search the channels for The Road to Concord. It's one word. When you find it, you go ahead and you click follow. It might mean you got to set up an account, but it's fast, it's easy, it's free. I did it, you can do it. For those technologically challenged members of the class, you can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. After the show, it's uploaded to Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and BitChute. Just look for The Road to Concord. You can go to the blog page, that's theroadtoconcord.com. That's where you'll find all your show notes, study notes, and handouts for the class. The phone is working. If you don't know how to call in, email us and we'll think about it. Finally, you can email a professor at joe@theroadtoconcord.com. He's a little slow, but he'll eventually get around to emailing you back. This show is currently mainly listener-sponsored. If you are interested in advertising your business on the show, please email us. With that said, we ask for your participation on a value-for-value basis. If you find our show of value to you, then you provide an equivalent portion of your labor and treasure through the donate link on the Road to Concord blog page, the show description on Rumble, and in the comments on the other streams. And thank you to all of you who have and will support this show.
Hey, that's a new intro. Sounded a little soft in my headphones, but maybe I didn't have my volume turned up loud enough. But Charlie told me he was going to do that. I didn't know that he'd already gotten it done. Good morning, Monday. It's a Manic Monday. Charlie's not here. We have Charlene lurking in the background today. Charlie had to go out of town. Might not be back until Friday. Probably won't. Might not even be back then. But we'll see. We'll keep him in our prayers as he travels with his family this week. Unexpected trip. But anyhow, I'll leave the details out of that. So good morning. What are we doing today? The title probably didn't give you much of a hint. Title of the show today, but when the wicked rule, the people groan. Well, it comes from the Bible. Don't know if you know it or not. I'm not going to hit you with that just yet, but it's a quote from the Psalms. I wanted to start out with the show today. We're going to be political today. Other quick note. Since Charlie's not here, we can't take phone calls today because that part of our show is handled on his end. Apologize for any inconvenience to any of you that might have wanted to call in. But I'm just going to get going with it. I ran across an article that just, I'll be honest with you folks, I didn't know what to do with this. This is from Not the Bee, and it's by Harris Rigby, August 9th, 2025. And it says the New York Governor Kathy Hochul quotes, "Democrats always follow the rules." Folks, oh my gosh. Anyway, it comes from a larger quote. They've done a pull quote here. It says, quoting her, "I'm going to do whatever I can to literally change the Constitution of New York State to allow us to have an election with the lines that we draw. If this is how Texas Republicans are going to play the game, we're going to fight fire with fire. I didn't want to take on this fight. I've always followed the rules. Democrats always follow the rules, but when they're willing to do this, redistricting to subvert our democracy, shame on us if we don't stand up." For those of you who don't know history, excuse me, gerrymandering, the term where you draw a district to suit your political purposes, that was coined in the late 1800s because of the way Democrats were redrawing districts to make sure Democrats got elected. This lady comes from a state that has millions of Republican voters that have not one Republican representative at the national level, because all the districts are drawn in such a way as to make sure that you will never elect a Republican. So for this lady to tell us that she's going to be fighting fire with fire, folks, that's what the Republicans are doing. She's gaslighting you. The other thing is that the Democrats have had this tendency to get overruled when they gerrymander. They get told, no, you can't do that sometimes. But Republicans, the courts tell the Republicans that all the time. The courts very seldom reverse a Democratic redistricting, but they overturn Republican redistrictings regularly. That's because you have Democratic judges passing these judgments. When I saw that story, I was at just a total loss for words. And then I realized, and here's the part that's going to stun you. She's telling the truth. From her perspective, Democrats always follow the rules. She is telling the truth from her perspective. Now, our goal is to figure out what the heck, how is it possible that she could say Democrats always follow the rules and be telling the truth, given what those of us who think we understand objective reality know about the Democratic Party and how they operate. How is it that we could have two such very different opinions of this situation? That's the question I would ask. Well, let's go right here. This is the Blaze. It's from the TV staff, July 24th, 2025. It says, Trump drops hammer. Irrefutable proof of treason in America's biggest scandal. What's that got to do with gerrymandering, Joe? Well, that's easy. Top secret documents obtained at DNI Tulsi Gabbard by DNI, Defense National Intelligence Agency, Tulsi Gabbard, have exposed former President Barack Obama trying to steal the election. Wasn't he a Democrat? Yes. And you could read the article, watch the show, Pat Gray, watch the replay. But basically what it comes down to is what we've known for, well, at least a lot of us have known for a long time. The 2016 election was, not 2016, 2020 election was stolen. Biden didn't win that. And probably didn't rule over anything at any time. That was probably done by Obama and an oligarchy. This was total treason. And they're all Democrats. How is that following the rules? Well, it's not following the rules as you and I probably understand them, but it is following the rules the way they understand them, the way Democrats understand them. I'll get to it. Just bear with me. This is Gateway Pundit by Christina Layla, July 31st, 2025. Breaking. Declassified Durham appendix shows Hillary Clinton personally approved Trump-Russia hoax and used FBI to put more oil on the fire. I'm not going to read this story. I don't need to. When you go through the details, the headline is enough in this case. Excuse me. Hillary Clinton lied to the American people and perpetuated a hoax on the election system. That is an election fraud. It's not voter fraud. It's election fraud. And she was supported by the American intelligence operations apparatus in this country and by Barack Obama and a whole bunch of officials in the Democratic Party at the administrative level. It's treason. It's straight up treason. But she didn't break any rules. She followed the rules according to Democrats. She did. You and I might think, hey, she should be in jail, if not worse. But if you're a Democrat, she didn't violate any rules. She didn't break the rules. The puppies are playing. Sorry about that, folks. So Christina Layla again. This is August 7th, 2025. Project Veritas Part 2. Whistleblower Bill Barr held secret meetings to plot prosecutions of Trump and block his political comeback. Well, I don't know what political party Bill Barr is. Some people told me he was a Republican. Some say Democrat. I don't care. It doesn't matter because the Republicans, on this show, we consider them the uniparty. But Bill Barr broke the law. clearly broke the law in this case, and he withheld the findings of his quote-unquote investigation until after the election. He was perpetuating election fraud. It's treason at this level. That's treason, in my opinion. I know the Constitution says it has to be waging war on the United States of America. That is a war on that's an ideological war on this country. It is subversion and undercutting of the rules of this nation. It's an attack on our system of government. Rules for radicals. Yes, Charlie has joined us, folks. Florida Amsoil man. Yes, it's rules for radicals, but it's also Isaiah 5:20 and 21. It's turning things on their head. Then here's another one from the Gateway pundit Gregory Leichhoff, August 10th, 2025. 15 Democrats arrested for election fraud. Now, this happened in rural South Texas. Prosecutors have brought forward one of the most significant vote harvesting cases in recent state history. And there's 15 Democrats for vote harvesting. That's voter fraud. That's vote fraud. Vote fraud is when you do illegal votes. Election fraud is when you manipulate the entire election at a higher level. At least that's how I'm defining it. This is illegal. These are 15 Democrats. I guess they didn't follow the rules. The problem is they were following the rules. They didn't do anything wrong as the Democrats see it. How could that be? We'll keep going. Here's another one. Gateway Pundit found this article for us. Leftists flip out as President Trump orders new census that would exclude illegals. Up to 30 Democrat House seats could evaporate. This is Cullen Lindberger, August 7th, 2025. Now, this is an important story. Where does Trump get the authority to order another census? It's not been every 10 years. The Constitution does not say it has to be every 10 years. I've read it. It said it had to be within 10 years of ratifying and putting the Constitution in place at the first time. When it was first implemented, they had to do the census within 10 years, within 2 and then within 10. And then it had to be established by law. So Congress can pass a simple one-paragraph bill. Let's have another census to be conducted before the next national election, the next presidential election, in which only legal American citizens are counted for representation purposes. Done. That's it. That's the extent of that bill. That's all you have to do. That's legal. That's constitutionally legal. It should be done because the last census was a lie. If you're going to count people who are in this country illegally, why not count everybody in the world? What's the difference? If I'm living in Russia, I'm not an illegal alien, Joe. Yes, you are. You're just an illegal alien who is visiting Russia. You might as well call yourself a native of America. I identify as an illegal alien living in America, visiting Russia. So send me a mail-in ballot. You're logically, you'd have a hard time refuting that line of reasoning if you accept that I'm supposed to count illegal aliens. By definition, an illegal alien is still subject to the jurisdiction of their country. They are citizens of their country. The United States Constitution applies to American citizens. Actually, it applies to the states. The states are supposed to be governing of their citizens of the United States of America, which illegals are not. Which people here on visas and work permits and things like that, green cards, you are not a citizen of the United States. You should not be voting in our elections. I don't know where or how that ever got. Can anybody show me a law that allows non-U.S. citizens to participate in U.S. elections? And by the way, we do have laws on the books at the state level that take your right to vote away if you're a criminal, convicted criminal. So your illegal aliens are not undocumented immigrants. They are unconvicted criminals. So why? I just don't understand. Unless, of course, I'm a Democrat. If I'm a Democrat, well, then I understand these people have not done anything wrong. They're playing by the rules. They're playing by the rules. They've done nothing wrong. in their perspective. How's that work, Joe? Well, let's keep going. This is back to the Blaze. This is from August 8th, 2025. It's Augusta Mayrat. Democrats defend democracy by ditching it. Gerrymandering is just dandy in California, New York, and Illinois, but not in a red state. Texas Democrats have once again fled the state. They do this routinely, not in the face of danger or persecution, but to block a vote they know they'll lose. Voters should recognize that these performative walkouts have nothing to do with democracy or the rule of law. They're tantrums, undemocratic and unaccountable. Well, actually, what they are is subversion of the state government. It's seditious. You are interfering with the process of Republican government. But it isn't, this is not democracy. This is not supposed to be a democratic country. We're not supposed to have a single democratic state government. The Constitution guarantees Republican form of government. Republican does not require a vote. I don't mean Republican with a capital R. I mean a Republican system of government, a representative system of government does not require anybody to be able to vote. And in our original form of government, the only person that you and I were allowed to vote for at the national level was our state representative, our district state representative in Congress, in the House of Congress. We didn't elect the president. We didn't elect the senators. And it should technically go back that way. It was designed to work that way. It's one of the reasons that the progressives have pushed for what closer and closer to pure democracy, although they don't want pure democracy. Their idea of democracy is subversive. It's how they're going to take over the country. And by and large, they've succeeded. And what they've done is they've set up a system of rules that's a two-tier rule system. There's rules for thee, but not for me. And that's why they haven't broken the rules. The rules don't apply to them. Do you see any of these people in jail yet? I see lots of promises from the Trump administration. We've got investigations. J.D. Vance, we're going to arrest them all and you just won't see it. Bongino, we just arrested a whole bunch of child perverts. I don't see a single person from Epstein's file on there. Excuse me for just a second. So if you're going to keep arresting the minions and you're never going to arrest, the evil doctor or the evil wizard or sorcerer, what good's it do? He just keeps waving a wand and making more minions. It's like you're arresting the flying monkeys, but you don't want to touch the wicked witch. What good are you doing? She's just going to make more flying monkeys. But it distracts us. Oh, look, my guy Trump and his administration are going after him. No, they're not. No, they're not. No. There's rules for us and rules for them. They will sacrifice their underlings, but they never sacrifice themselves once they claw their way to the top. That would be against the rules. Their rules, not ours. They've never done anything wrong by the system that they've established. They'll tell you that in a minute here. Hold on. Gateway pundit Brian Lupo, August 9th, 2025. Battle lines being drawn. Several states now plan to redraw district lines in response to Texas. Who are the real gerrymanderers? And they're going to show you a map and go into all of this. Folks, the Democrats have been gerrymandering for decades, over 100 years. Republicans do it too. Why? Well, that's because it's a political fight. They want to make sure they get to keep their power. Nothing wrong with that. It's democracy, right? Tell me something. How is it democracy if I've got an election and I'm going to make sure I draw the group of voters in such a way that every one of them is going to vote for me? Guaranteed that I'm going to win that election because I've reduced the voting pool to just people who love Joe. How's that democracy? Unless, of course, democracy doesn't mean what we think it means. So here's where they start to tell us the truth. Repeat, this is Gateway Pundit, Mike Lachance, August 9th, 2025. Repeat loser Beto O'Rourke tells Texas crowd Democrats will do whatever it takes to regain power. F the rules. Wait a minute. New York governor said that the Democrats never break the rules. So how is it that he doesn't care about the rules, then he's not going to break the rules? But you see, that's just it, folks. Heck with your rules. Screw the Constitution. Screw the state constitution. To heck with laws. Their rules are just, we deserve power. It's our entitlement. We're going to have it one way, shape, form, or the other, and you are never going to get it again because we refuse to have you tell us what we can and cannot do. And therefore, as long as we have our rightful position in power, we can do nothing wrong. This is straight up Machiavelli. And Alinsky was a Machiavellianite. And Bill Clinton once said Machiavelli was one of his political heroes. Machiavelli is the ends justify the means, and if the ends are you get to have power and nobody else does, then whatever way you have to do it, that's okay. You're not breaking any rules. So, Gateway Pundit again, Mike LaChance again, August 7th, 2025. James Carville. Next time Democrats are in power, they should add states and pack SCOTUS to save democracy. Folks, okay, so you can't win an election unless I redraw the districts, add states that are only going to vote Democratic, and then pack the Supreme Court so that you can keep your illegally gained votes. So that you can subvert the Constitution, throw away the rule of law, seize power, and your court will say, that's okay, you can do that. And that's democracy? Mr. Carville, you keep using this word democracy. I do not think it means what you think it means. Only it does to them. It does. You don't understand what they're saying. Coming on the board from Deltros 1, it says, it's simple. You can't break the rules if you make the rules. Bingo! Bingo! Yes. Yes. That's exactly right. Notice that he just told you. Okay, read the title, because the title works. If you read the article, the title it's accurate. James Carville, big Democratic thinker, leader in the Democratic Party. The next time the Democrats are in power, they should add states. He's talking about Puerto Rico, Guam, all these other places or split California into two. He wants to add states so that you get more Democratic representatives and senators so the Republicans can never, ever again have power. By definition, that's not democracy. That's not democracy the way that the Greeks would tell you. We'll cover that in a minute. But he's telling you, do whatever it takes, okay? Pack the Supreme Court. How is that the rule of law? That's the total violation of the established. It doesn't matter. He just told you. He just admitted that they used the justices to subvert the rule of law and to subvert the Constitution. He just admitted that one of the democratic processes of retaining their subversive stolen powers from the people that they have taken away from the Constitution is through the courts. And that's to save democracy? He's fornicating for chastity and wants you to see him as holding the moral high ground in the process. So back to this lady, New York Governor Kathy Hochul. Democrats always follow the rules. Well, they do, if you understand what they're really telling you. What are they telling me, Joe? Okay, simple. The best way to protect you from what they're doing is to learn to see them, to really, truly, honestly see them. And the best thing I have for that right here is this. This is from the movie They. I don't know if you've seen that movie. If you've never seen that movie, you need to go find it and watch it. The lead actor and the director both said that it's a documentary, not a satire. It's a documentary. Now, in the fight, the two protagonists, the lead actor and his best friend, they get in a fight. They get in a fist fight. That fist fight represents the struggle to get the average human being out of the matrix and to see things clearly the way they really are, to put on their glasses. Yeah, Rowdy Roddy Piper. And as soon as you put on his glasses, all the advertising that you see, this is what it tells you: consume, stay asleep, reproduce, conform, yield, buy, obey, obey, keep watching television. So this is what you have to do. You have to learn to see them as they truly are. How do you do that? You got to get your glasses on. First of all, democracy. How do they mean democracy? Well, what they mean is do what the F I tell you. Sorry, folks. I've got to watch my language. I'm a bad ambassador for the Messiah. There's too much sergeant left in me. It's not an excuse. I've got to work on it. But the people we're talking about, Democrats and Republicans, folks, please. They're uniparty. We'll get to that before the end of the show. But the people who have stolen power from you, when they say democracy, they mean the rule of them. And I'm going to tell you how it works. And we're going to see if you recognize this. In a real democracy, 50.01% of the people rule. They decide what is going to be. You don't elect presidents. You don't elect leaders. That's not how true democracy works. I Googled democracy. I looked up hold on a second. It came up on the wrong side of the screen. I looked this up before the show. There it is. Democracy. This is one of the definitions it's the most common one I found too. The word democracy comes from the Greek word demos, meaning people, and kratos, meaning power. So democracy means power of the people. Democracy is a form of government in which people have the authority to deliberate and vote for the president. No, that's actually called a Republican government. When you vote for your leadership, that's called a Republican government. And it says this allows citizens to decide how their country or community will run. States with democratic governments guarantee fundamental individual rights and ensure a range of personal freedoms. Wrong. Absolutely 100% totally wrong. That's a Republican form of government. Now, why is this the most prominent definition of democracy out there? This is not an accident. This is intentional. Now, at what level it's been done, I don't know, but this is what's taught in your schools. This is gaslighting. This is deceiving you, confusing you. That is not democracy. That has got nothing to do with democracy. What is true democracy? Well, true democracy is this. Democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch. Liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote. I'm going to illustrate the truth of this matter with an absurdity. And I'm going to be a little not as vulgar with it as I usually am, but we're going to be absurd. We've got 100 people. And we're going to vote on who's going to serve who. And we've got 25 people that are green, and we've got 75 people that are purple. And the purple people decide that the green people now are going to carry the entire load for society. That's democracy. So the green people need to do everything the purple people tell them to do, and they no longer have any rights. That's democracy. That is democracy. That's how a democracy works. The green people no longer have rights. They're slaves. Their sole purpose in life is to make it so the purple people can lay around and live free forever and not have to work. By the way, that is communism in practice. Everywhere you ever find a communist government, socialism in any form, secular humanism, the self-appointed leaders get there through democracy, voting, and they live like kings and queens. And everybody else works to support that lifestyle. That's how this works. It's how it always works, everywhere it's been done, because that has always been the true goal. That's what they mean by democracy. Now let's keep going with this. There are no minority rights under a democracy. So why do the Democrats talk about that? Democracy doesn't care about minority rights. It cares about the will of the majority over the minority. People who are concerned about the rights of the minority, that's a Republican form of government. That's what we're supposed to be. But we're told by people who are preaching democracy, will of the majority, that you must have abortion, even though that's no longer a majority desire anymore. It never really was. Not if you broke down the numbers. Abortion on demand for any purpose at any time in the pregnant has never been a popular sentiment in this country, ever. They fool you with the numbers. What has always had the majority opinion is abortion should be legal in those instances where it truly does threaten the life of the mother. That's where they get that from. So they've lied to you in the process of telling you that. The idea that the nation supports homosexual rights. Well, folks, that is still a minority of the population. And acceptance of all this craziness, this absurdity, is being forced on you by the rule of law, even though we didn't vote for it. Lots of things are forced on us that we have never voted for. Aaron Spikes on the board, he says, I think it's the will of the government over the rights of the people. Yes, where the government is defined as those few people in charge of it. But the problem is everybody in government thinks they're in charge of the government, right down to the lowest lackey. So democracy, the way that these people are using it, Democrats and Republicans alike, progressives, secular humanists, from this point forward, secular humanists, Democrat, Republican, they're all the same. The way they're using democracy is you'll do what I tell you to do. That's what they really mean. That's their true agenda. They're secular humanists, communists, whatever you want to call it. Now, you might think secular humanism means they're godless. They're not. They are not godless. They have a God. Well, communism has no God. Yes, it does. You can lie, folks. You can lie all you want. Form and function define. So you can tell me that secular humanism is, I'm calling it secular for a reason, Joe. It means no God. Wrong. Wrong. It has a God. You're just forgetting that form and function define. What if I put it to you this way? What if the media, Project Mockingbird, what if the media is their prophet? The school system too. I do remember a progressive saying that teachers were the prophets of his new religion. And he said his religion was socialism, secular humanism, and the teachers are his prophets. And so is the media. So your teachers in the media are your prophets. And they teach the commandments. They teach you what you have to obey. And you are supposed to accept those commandments and direct your life accordingly. In other words, you are to die to yourself and live according to what they tell you to do, even if it changes from day to day or from hour to hour, because that's what the prophets told you that the commandments are. And if you oppose what the prophets are telling you, what the commandments are, if you oppose that at any time, that's a heresy. And it gets treated like a heresy. Sound familiar? Well, it should. That's because these people think they are the God. Aaron Spike says we are pretty much at this point. You'll do what we say or else. Look at all the laws that already infringe or take away your natural rights. Well, if they're the God, you have no natural rights. You only have the rights they give you. Democracy is their will over ours. Ergo, they can never be wrong, which means that they always follow the rules. It literally means they think they're God. Now, how many times have I brought you quotes from the people who helped them build the system that we're in now, where those people said, man is his own God? I've brought the receipts. I have. When are we going to start believing it? For those that wonder why I hold this position, I don't think that this refers to the Antichrist. This is 2 Thessalonians 2. It says, now we request you, brethren, with regard to the coming of our Lord Yeshua Messiah and the gathering together to him, when he comes again, that you not be quickly shaken from your composure or be disturbed either by a spirit or a message or a letter as if it's from us, to the effect that the day of the Lord has come. In other words, he hasn't come yet. He says, let no one in any way deceive you, for he will not return, for it will not happen unless the apostasy comes first. An apostasy, a great turning away. The apostasy comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God and displaying himself as being God. Now, what the heck does that mean? I've seen a lot of interpretations from a lot of different believers, and I disagree with most all of them nowadays, because I've come to understand what Paul is telling us. Why am I bringing scripture into a political conversation? Because there is no such thing as secular. You will worship, period. Are you going to worship the Creator? Are you going to worship some nebulous great power? Well, I'm not going to do that because that doesn't tell me who the Creator is. Okay, it's just that power of the universe. Well, that could be the Force for all I know. That's not me. That's not for me. If it's for you, that's okay. I'm not going to tell you how to worship. But what I'm getting at is they're not all the same. The spiritual gods all have their own names. Earthly gods have their own names. Some of them are called Nancy Pelosi. Some of them go by the name Barack Obama. Some of them go by the name Donald Trump. Yes, I'm sorry. If you're MAGA, he did tell me he's perfect. He's sinless. He's never done anything wrong that he needs to be forgiven for. He can invoke the name of God all he wants. He's not invoking the name of the God that I believe in and follow, because he's lying to himself and to me when he says he's sinless and he's never done anything that requires apology or to be, redeemed. It's not what I believe. He does. He said so. He's never changed that publicly. He's never changed his opinion or told me where his conversion point was. So you're going to worship. It's just a matter of who or what. Some people worship money. Some people worship power. Some people don't see the difference between the two. You will worship. Now, they call democracy the will of the people, but it isn't, because they control what you see that helps you form your opinion. They control how you decide your opinions. They control all of that. They control your elections. They control your votes. They control all of it. And if it's controlled, what's the difference? How is that any different from gerrymandering? I don't understand. It's lawlessness to me. It's all lawlessness. And the people groan. I want to show you some more of the dangers that we're in right now. This is from Glenn Beck Radio. So August 7th, 2025. It says the dangerous rise of foreign allegiances in Congress. The rise of dual loyalties in Congress is a dangerous trend. Representative Ramirez allegiances to Guatemala calls into question her commitment to the American laws and sovereignty. We've had another one of these dual allegiance representatives in the House, the federal House, saying that she's here to work for Somalia. This is dangerous. And I don't know if you saw this. This is, where did it happen? Yeah. She was down in Mexico City. Democrat Representative Delia Ramirez at a summit in Mexico City tells her audience in Spanish, "I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American." She should be immediately removed from Congress. She should no longer be allowed in Congress. We have this J. Paul Trump administration showing corruption on every level. This is from Breitbart on August 7th. And where's her claim that there's corruption on every level? Well, she says because Trump is not pursuing a socialist agenda and is trying to find fiscal stability and prosperity for as many people as possible, then that's greed, and greed is corruption. This woman is embracing a communist agenda, and communist agenda is secular humanism. Secular humanism is worship of self. So what she's ticked off about is she's not in charge, but she wants to be seen as morally high ground, moral high ground. So I want you to be financially independent and never have to worry about a thing. We need to take from the rich and give to the poor. In Ephesians, Paul says that if you want to get into heaven, you've got to quit stealing, go get a real job so that you have something to give to others in need. You, not the government, you give it to them. So if I'm voting for the government to take from the rich man and give to me and other poor people, I'm a thief by proxy. That's what representative government means. And if I'm in a democracy where 51% of us are going to vote, to put the green or whatever, to put the green people in slavery for the rest of their lives so that I don't have to work anymore, I'm stealing their labor by proxy. I'm a thief. All socialists are thieves. Every stinking one, by definition. But they want you to think that they're the just and compassionate and moral one because they think of themselves as gods, and gods are always just and kind and moral and compassionate and loving. Ergo, because I'm a just, compassionate, moral, loving person who can never do anything wrong because I'm a god, I'm going to take from these evil people who stole it from you first and give it back to you. Well, I have a question. When did you earn the $1 billion that they stole? Because if you did, you wouldn't be poor. Because you wouldn't have voted for the people who were going to take the money from you. All socialists are thieves because they always take from the labor of those they dominate. They're slave owners. They just don't give you the courage. You know what? If you're a socialist, you're worse than the slave owner. You're just as racist. It's just that your bigotry is against money. But at least the slave owner housed, clothed, fed, and to some extent cared for their slaves. Socialist doesn't even do that. Well, yeah, they do, Joe. They give free health care. Do they? Go to the United Kingdom. Oh, well, it's going to require an expensive test, and it's going to be 6 months from now. Here, take this pill and die in peace. Same thing with Canada. Everywhere you go with that stuff, you're not giving care. Next one, top left-wing podcaster slams audacity of white Trump voters who eat in a Mexican restaurant and visit gay hairdressers. Well, what that tells me is that she's a bigot. She's a bigot. She just assumes that white Trump supporters are racists. And if you're not a white Trump supporter, if you support Trump and you're not white, then there's something else wrong with you. Last time I looked, this woman's skin color is white. The Christian in me has no words for what I want to call that woman. Nancy Pelosi's recent comments on trans kids show this is a hill Democrats are willing to die on. Well, I'm going to have a little sympathy for Nancy. Her mind's not there anymore. She wasn't able to answer this. She tried to answer it with what she's supposed to answer. She wants to protect the rights of a trans child to have, quote unquote, gender affirming care. In other words, body altering life-altering surgery without parental consent is a right for a minor. Let me ask you a question. If a child should be able to decide what their sex is, and I don't mean gender, I mean sex, contrary to their biological birth, XY or XX chromosomes, and the child should be allowed to get hormone treatment and surgery that alters their, cuts things off or adds things or whatever, alters it so that they look like the other sex. They have not become the other sex. If a child should be allowed to do that, why shouldn't a child, a 5-year-old, be voting and having sex with adults? Now, you say that's an absurdity. Be careful, because the leadership of the people who are pushing this want that too. They want you to be able to vote as soon as you're 16, and they want children, prepubescent children, to be able to choose to have love with adults. That's what they call it, love. Pedophilia is being pushed along the same agenda that was pushed to make everything, all the gays, normalized. This is a perversion of our culture. Natasha says, is it possible her mind is going downhill like Biden's did? She's probably got dementia. We know as a fact that, 20 years ago, I think it was now, it was reported that there were people on the Hill, representatives, senators, and congressmen that were getting dementia medicine, Alzheimer's medication from the House pharmacy. So a lot of these people do not belong in their positions, and the House knows who they are, and the House should have them removed. But because they're all part of the same club, the same clique, they're all gods, the pantheon won't remove themselves. So they're telling us who they are. Elizabeth Warren, she embraced the commie ideas of Zohan Mamdani. That is the Democratic message, she says. Communism. And that's in that story. So he's the future. He's a self-appointed elite. He doesn't want you to have police. He's pushing the defunding of police in New York City, but yet he's spent tens of thousands of dollars on personal protection. He doesn't want you to have privatized school system, and yet he went to a private school. He's an elitist. He's also saying that he's going to turn New York City into a Islamic socialism. Folks, let me explain something to you. Islam, by its nature, is socialist, as socialism is practiced. It pushes the ummah, the people. It's one body. And everybody's supposed to give everything to each other freely, just like communism, except if you're the leader. If you're the mufti or whatever, or the mullah or whatever, you get to live like a king, which is exactly what Muhammad set up. Probably one of the world's first truly theological fascist governments. He got whatever he wanted, but then it turned around and told the people they have to share everything equally. Nobody should be rich unless, of course, you've earned your extra money in jihad. So when he says he's going to turn the city of New York into a Islamic socialists, he's talking about a mini caliphate. And he's not lying from his perspective. The Democrats probably didn't hear anything other than communist. They missed the rest of it. They don't care. Jimmy Zinker says, why is this right, but owning firearms isn't? For a child. Yeah. A child can't have a firearm, but they can go mutilate themselves. Because, Mr. Zinker, the simple truth is, the people pushing all of this are self-appointed gods. They can't be wrong. Whatever it is that they want from day to day is what's right. You are supposed to love and adore, worship and honor them and cherish them and do whatever they tell you to do because they know what's best for you. And they're here to save you. I've been telling everybody this for as long as I've been on this show, because after studying these people for as long as I have, I've come to realize it's the only explanation that unifies all of the mental disorders I see. That or they're demonically possessed. But the two are not mutually exclusive. They can be demonically possessed and think that they're gods. And then this is the one I want you to see. Gateway Pundit, August 5th, 2025, Jim Hoft. I don't know what the bleep happened. Marjorie Taylor Greene blasts the GOP for portraying America's first voters, vows to stay and fight for MAGA movement from inside the swamp. One of the things you do go down here, she says, I don't know if the Republican Party is leaving me or if I'm kind of not relating to the Republican Party as much anymore. Sweetheart, it's always been this way. They use the MAGA movement to get themselves in power. She said, she told the outlet, I don't know which one is which. She says, down further, I think the Republican Party has turned its back on America first and the workers and just regular Americans. And on Monday, Marjorie Taylor Greene took a social media to blast what she sees as total failure of accountability on the issue central to MAGA movement, posting a chart highlighting 0 arrests tied to Russia collusion hoax, January 6th, the COVID-19, Benghazi, and the 2020 election, amongst others. And then she goes on to say that she's not going to be running for re-election because the party in her state is making it such that another rhino is going to get elected as senator, and she doesn't want any part to do with this anymore. Well, that's called principles. Whether we agree with her or not is irrelevant. She's being principled. She's not going to have anything to do with the party that doesn't represent her, or at least her and the people that she is trying to represent. If you think the Republican Party is innocent of all of this, you've been just as deceived as the Democrats who think the Democrat Party is pure wind-driven snow and all this other stuff. It's a uniparty. You watch what they do, not what they say. They tell me they've got all the evidence they need against Obama. They've said that. Why hasn't he been arrested? Oh, well, he's got presidential immunity. No, he doesn't. That's a lie. Well, the Supreme Court said they lied. You only have immunity while you're in office. You don't impeach a president who's no longer in office. You don't need to. Impeachment is how you remove them from their elected position, or duly appointed in the case of a judge. They have to be removed from office before you can prosecute them, but Obama's no longer in office. So why can't he be charged and tried? He can be. So this idea that, oh, he's got presidential immunity, find that in the Constitution. Well, it says right there that you can't try him unless you impeach him first. See, it didn't say he's immune. It says he has to be impeached. Well, look up the word. It means removed from office. If that were the case that impeachment is trial, then why would you have to impeach him and then try him again? Wouldn't that be double jeopardy? No, impeachment is a trial to see whether or not you are no longer worthy of being in the public position you're in. Do we have the authority to remove you from that position so that then you can be charged and tried with a crime? Impeachment is a political hearing, not a legal hearing. And nowhere in the Constitution are you going to find permission for any elected official to be immune from prosecution. They're not, ever. So why hasn't Obama been charged? Why hasn't any of his administration been charged? Why hasn't Hillary been charged? Where's the Epstein file? Why aren't any of those people charged? How come where's Fauci? Why hasn't he gone to jail? Folks, don't talk to me about the Holocaust if you're not going to talk to me about the Holocaust of the COVID-19 jab. Globally, they killed tens of millions of people. Why aren't they in jail? We now know that the FDA knew it was going to kill people. Why aren't they in jail? Well, they got to, no, they don't. No, they don't. They got everything they need. They've already published it. I've read a lot of it. They've got everything they need to make a case. They're telling you, well, I want it airtight. Oh, bull crap. You're being shined on. They're going to investigate until the next person gets elected. I don't know if this is done intentionally, but I do firmly believe that the spiritual forces that work in this world, and I do believe that, have put Trump in place so that you think God put him there. They've allowed him to get in there pretending to be God's person or representative. And I have no doubt that Yahweh, the one true living God in my mind, did allow all of this, because it's going to serve his purposes too. But I think this is a nefarious thing that allowed Trump to get into position, because he's going to shine you on and make you promises and never deliver. This is another QAnon hoax. And what you're going to get next, it's going to make Stalin and Mao and Hitler look like choir boys. And then they will have what they've wanted. And then the uniparty will quit pretending to be what it is. It's going to quit pretending to be two people. It's going to show you it's always been one party all along, because they'll have no longer have a reason to fight each other for fun or sport or theater, because they're going to do exactly what Carville said. They're going to seize power. They're never going to let you have it back. And you will be under the control of the beast. Yeah, I know. That's my religious whack job kookadoodle stuff. One little problem with this, folks. I got a pretty good published record on making these predictions over 20 years. And all I'm doing is putting the pieces together from history. I'm not even relying on scripture for this. Says, Mr. Zinker says, you don't know if this is international. There are no accidents in politics. I believe it's international, Mr. Zinker. I really do. And when we come back from the break, I'll show you why. It's coordinated internationally. Same agenda, one agenda. The only thing I'm going to keep asking is, how does man, capital M man, how do human beings with all their faults and frailties and the human nature, how is it that a bunch of human beings can keep the same agenda through almost 2 centuries? Well, actually for eons, but the same identifiable agenda, practices, patterns, techniques, the same offensive pattern for over 200 years. The same agenda, the same trend, the same velocity. How do that many people from all those different nations and cultures keep the same agenda? Because if you get high enough up, you can see the velocity vector. You can see the agenda. Natasha, we'll go to break. When we come back 6 minutes from now, I'll show you why I believe this is global. See you in a minute. That song, the drums always make me think of Buzz Lightyear at Disney. I used to like that place. They got so woke. My wife and I haven't been back since 2019, I think. There's so much of our world that I used to enjoy that's just gone. I told everybody in 2020 when they did the lockdowns, I told everybody, I said, you're not going back to normal. This is it. This is the new normal. They had a crisis that they created, and they created it so that they could give us their solution. And it's intentional, like Mr. Zinker was saying, but it's also global. Real quick, before I go to the next group of stories, I just want to, if you watch this show, you're subject to getting thrown in the pew at any moment. I'm going to push you in the pew for just a minute. The scriptures say that judgment starts at the house of the Lord. So I'm going to tell you who I blame for the condition that this country's in right now. Those who call themselves Christians. Because the majority of you, the vast majority of you, 40, 50, 60% of you, don't vote. Because you've been told that it's not Christian to vote. Messiah tells you to vote. Render unto Caesar. Well, participating in your government, in a representative form of government like ours is supposed to be, is rendering under Caesar. So why didn't you do that with a Christian sense of responsibility? You didn't. And now look what we've got. You could have saved us from all of this, non-voting Christian. You didn't. I know it's your religious conviction. I think you need to reread the scriptures if that's what you believe, because you've fallen for the teachings and traditions of man, who may very well be under the influence of a demon. Let's go back to the next story, and it's going to be in line with what I just said. ConservativeMoms.org, or Conservative Moms Organization, labeled hate group in police training. And they've labeled them right up there with Antifa and other neo-Nazi extremist groups because they're quote-unquote anti-government. And when you read the story, you know what they really are? What they really are is anti-pushing your trans, pedophilia, gay agenda onto my children through the school system. Well, that makes them a hate group. See, if you disagree with the God, it's a heresy. So you must be a hater. Well, when I read this, I ran across another story that is related, in my mind. A New Jersey Gateway pundit, Cassandra McDonald, August 9th, 2025. New Jersey town passes ordinance to hold parents accountable, including possible jail time for their children's crimes. Well, first of all, that's illegal. Constitution says that there'll be no attainder of blood. You can't hold one person responsible for something another person does. But you can do that under democracy. But how are these two stories tied? This one in the conservative moms group is a hate group. How are they tied? Well, this is simple. I can't put the moms group in jail for free speech, but if their child comes to school and refuses to use the gender pronouns of a child with mental disorders, who thinks that they're another gender or a one-eyed flying purple people eating unicorn, a wackadoodle, well, then I can put mom and dad in jail because the child committed a crime. And you see, I'm compassionate because I'm not putting the child in jail for what the child did. I'm going to put mom and dad in jail for teaching the child hate, where the hate is defined as telling a boy that thinks he's a girl that he's still a boy because he was born with XY chromosomes, which is the definition of male. This is something that we shouldn't have even be forced to deal with had quote unquote Christian groups done their job in this country. This would have never been allowed. But, manna, right? Got to go earn the almighty dollar, and politics isn't for Christians. Founding fathers said that this was to be a nation of Protestant theocracy. Funny. They also said that the First Amendment was meant only to protect Christians, the different denominations of Christians, and not Mahatmaites or infidels, meaning Muslims and non-believers. Maybe we ought to... Anyway, forget it. Gateway Pundit: leaked FBI document reveals Jeffrey Epstein was a secret FBI informant, according to a report. Well, I don't doubt that. I also don't doubt that he worked for the CIA, which would be why we're never going to see any of these people arrested. Nothing's ever going to happen to them because, I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's dead, but that's just me. Of course, his butler doesn't think he's dead. His brother doesn't think he's dead. Overly exaggerated gasp, Natasha. Gateway Pundit again. Mike LaChance, August 5th, 2025. Democratic Socialists of America panel says they want to abolish the family and perform abortions in churches. Folks, first of all, Democratic Socialists of America means communists, secular humanists. Mr. Zinker says we have some breaking news. The DC police are now under federal control. Our world is on fire, folks. Another one. If you think it's not global, this is from Not the Bee. A report. Australian government could now pay up to $22,000 to moms who abort babies after 20-week gestation. You realize that that means that a mother who's really industrious about this could make $44,000 a year just to carry their child to 20 weeks and abort them twice a year, while probably collecting other unemployment benefits. If you subsidize something, you're going to get more of it. This is absolute. This is evil. This is evil on the level of Dr. Mandela. Or Mengele, rather. This is evil on a level that makes me wish I wasn't part of this world anymore. Nigel Farage warns of national emergency as thousands more migrants invade Britain's shores chanting Allahu Akbar. This is coming here. Well, it's already here in the United States, but it's going to get worse. So England is being invaded by Muslims who want to take over England and turn it into a caliphate. And if you say anything about it, here's the next story. UK fallen Tommy Robinson arrested second time this week for posting F Palestine, F Hamas, and F Islam after self-defense arrest Monday. So you can't even have free speech against the people who are destroying your country in England anymore. There are parts of this country where that already happens. Which brings me to the title of the show. Proverbs 29 verse 2 says, when the righteous increase, the people rejoice. But when a wicked man rules, people groan. What are we to do? When the wicked rule, the people groan. What are we to do? I don't know the answer for the nation. I only know the answer for Joe and the people around Joe. I'm having one of those days where I'm watching our viewership numbers. And it's telling me I'm saying the right thing. If I was after money, I would do the normal talk radio thing here. And I could fill the void left by Dan Bongino within 6 months if I really wanted to. And the system would allow me to do that. It would. But because what I'm trying to do, we're buffering now. Hopefully I'm still with you. What we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do here, is encourage you to think for yourself, to open your eyes and understand, Are we still even on? Let me check with Natasha. Natasha, are we still here?
I see you loud and clear.
Okay, there
Okay,
it is.
yes.
All right, it might be on my end. Appreciate that. Thank you. It might be on my end. All sorts of weird things were going on this end, which usually tells me I'm over the target. Thanks, Natasha. What we're trying to do here is just encourage you to think for yourself. I don't need you to think like me. That's not a good thing. I don't need you to agree with me on everything. As long as we can all get in the same ballpark, as the metaphor I like to use. My truth doesn't have to be yours doesn't have to be mine, but we both still have to recognize that we've got hold of the elephant. I might have the tail, you might have the trunk, somebody might have an ear, somebody else a leg, somebody might be riding on the back. You know what I mean. But we all have to be able to, thanks guys for telling me that we're still good. We all have to be able to agree that we're dealing with an elephant. We live in a time where we don't even know what the language means anymore. They talk about democracy, but you don't know what the heck they mean. But at the same time, if you step back and quit listening to them and watch what they do, if you let the form and function, their actions define them rather than their words, that'll help you. That'll help you a great deal to understand what they really want, what their real agenda is. And they could tell you, well, that's not what I meant. I have this with somebody in my life that tells me all the time they say things or do things that, for all the life of me, come across as different than what they tell me they meant. And I've got to the point where I'm pretty sure that they have a subconscious agenda that they're not even aware of. They can be snarky. This individual I'm thinking about can be snarky, can be snippy, snide. And I love this person. I really do. They're close to me. They're one of my best friends. But sometimes without, and I've come to realize I don't even think they know it. And I wonder how many of us that applies to, that we tell ourselves that we don't mean that. But when I watch what you do, your actions lie. They don't conform with your words. And people don't seem to see this. We're all blind to some extent, blind to our own faults. We all are. But for the most part, most folks don't have any desire to examine themselves. And when we have a show like I'm doing today that isn't comfortable to listen to, it isn't, the audience falls away. So when I tell people that you want to have your ears tickled, well, Joe, you're just a religious kook. Then why do you keep affirming it with your viewership? If I was having one of these days where I was on, Coke and donuts and hyped up and just calling the Democrats bad names and insulting people left and right like a lunatic, oh man, our numbers go through the charts. We've seen it. It's a pattern that we see all the time, over and over again. There'd be double digits across all boards, triple digits for us. We've had our best shows like that. Or if I'm talking to you about some conspiracy theory, you're all over that. I talk to you about something that is going to make a difference in the world, at least your world, and you don't want to listen. And you know what? It's what I expect. We live in a lawless world. Mr. Zinker says that Trump is deploying the National Guard, surging 500 plus federal agents on Washington, D.C. to reestablish law. Where was he on January 6th? Where was that then? Maybe this is him learning. Maybe. But I don't think so. I don't. Not anymore. I've become so jaded, such a skeptic, that there's very little in the world that I accept on face value anymore. I've come to look for the hidden hand, but I still guard against running off the deep end in that direction. I try to keep myself a little bit between both sides because I know that I'm looking for the hidden hand, but it's not always there. But it's there more often than it isn't. I don't know what to do anymore, folks. Not with the politics side of this. Democracy. The founding fathers called democracy the tyranny of the masses. It did. They hated it. So why does everybody call it a democracy? It sounds good, and everybody's taught to love that idea, but you can't even get it defined properly. And then they redefine republicanism as democracy. If we aren't working from a common understanding of what a word means, we live in Babel. It means confusion. Mr. Zinker says, now think about the precedent and what can be done with it the next time Obama shows up. Next time an Obama shows up. Yes, the precedent of using the military. Yes. Well, the precedent for using the National Guard to put down riots like Antifa and BLM, that was set a long time ago by LBJ and Nixon and Democrats before them. So why didn't Trump use that back in the 2020 election? I don't know anymore, folks. I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. They're talking about UFOs now. We've got J.D. Vance and everybody else telling us that the UFOs are real. Let me tell you something. I think they're talking to something. I don't think it's alien. I don't think they're interdimensional beings. Federalizing police? Yeah. Well, Obama already did that. Mr. Zinker, he did. We just didn't realize it. That's why every federal agency has a SWAT team now, including the IRS. And that's why the federal government gave all of those surplus war vehicles to state and local governments, sheriff's offices and everything else. They needed a civilian police, defense force as well armed and trained as the military. So they turned our supposed law enforcement into their Gestapo. I mean, we've got a guy here locally, John Quest, all we can do is prepare ourselves spiritually and physically. I agree. We've got a gentleman here locally. He's a local reporter, and he goes to the city council meetings, and he reports on some of the corruption and the graft that's going on in our local cities, our local townships. And our sheriff is in on it. And it got so bad that they tried to frame him, and they raided his house because he supposedly had somebody's, I think if I'm remembering right, it was somebody's drone or something. It's a total frame job. And if he hadn't had cameras on the outside of his property that the sheriff's department apparently didn't know about, that reporter would probably be in jail right now because they would have framed him. This is known at our state level. Our great Governor DeSantis knows that we've got thoroughly corrupt people in our county. He has the state constitution's authority to remove these people from office. Has he done it? No. So we've got individuals suing the governments to make their worlds right again after having the government crush and ruin their world. And what's happening? The courts are allowing now known corrupt city officials and the sheriff's department, everybody else, they're using taxpayer money to defend themselves against civil suit for redress of grievances. There's no righteousness left in this country anymore. I'm watching something that in a bygone age, the men in this county would have grabbed their rifles, gathered on the courtroom lawn, pulled these people out of office, and said, "No more. You're done. Get out of town. Don't come back." They would have literally ridden them out of town, put them on a rail and rid them out. Don't come back and sell your house. You just lost everything. You're being told to leave with your life. You come back, you'll lose that too. We'll say, well, Joe, that's not the rule of law. How can you have a rule of law when the social contract has been broken to the point where there no longer is law, when the criminals have control over the system of government that's meant to enforce the law? When the cartel is running your law, how do you have rule of law anymore? You don't. You're back to the rule of the jungle, where you have to defend yourself, and you have that right. Yes, ma'am.
You may have actually just answered my question. I was going to ask how we could do something like that today in a way that is lawful and moral. But, yeah.
You have to have a moral people first.
True.
You know of such a group of people in this county, this state, this country? I know only individually here and there, like little seeds in a field full of cessed pool. I'm depressed, folks, in a way. I mean, not depressed where you got to give me medication and counseling. Discouraged. How about that? Better word. I don't know what to tell you to do here. I know what history suggests has to happen. And oh my gosh, I don't want that. But I don't see any other way. Yes, ma'am?
When you mentioned just righteous people kind of here and there, I think one of the best things we can do is make sure we ourselves are one of those righteous people.
That's what we try to encourage our audience to do.
I mean,
that's the only solution I see.
Right. And we can only really control ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it'll grow. But
you can also hold those around you to accountability. And if they refuse to be held to accountability, you can separate from them.
Right. Might be getting a little ahead, though. But anyway.
I'm about talked out for today. Didn't have a long show for you. Never intended for one today. I got a little philosophy going on in my head right now, but it's more of a conversation for the likes of Mr. Zinker than it is for a general audience, because it's wonky. And if you don't have a background in philosophy, it makes people's brains hurt. So I'm not going to share that with you right now. If you're frustrated, if you're discouraged, you're not alone. But if you're turning to the talking heads to make you feel better, understand that their job is not to make you feel better. Their job is just to keep you in a constant, perpetual state of anger and unrest toward whoever they target you at and tell you the enemy is. So if you're listening to right-wing radio, the enemy's the Democrats. If you're listening to Democrat media, the enemy's the Republicans. If you're listening to Christian radio, it's everybody who's a non-Christian. If you're listening to secular radio, it's everybody who's a religious fanatic. If you're a true believer in the Bible, then you know the enemy is the devil. The devil in sin. That's a struggle from within. Decide what you want in this world for yourself. Then make a conscious choice to become that person. And if you expect it to happen with the blink of an eye or a snap of a finger, oh, the Holy Spirit changed me. Yeah, how fast? Overnight. Well, I'm not so sure that's the Holy Spirit. Be careful with that. I got a friend of mine addicted to painkillers because of a medical condition, alcoholic as well. He just recently called me and told me that he has been getting more and more into his faith. He's Jewish, and that it helped him break his addictions, and that he's feeling better now than he had since he was 18. He's my age. He's in his late 50s, early 60s. But notice what he told me. It took him a couple of months to do this. It wasn't an instantaneous change. So even when you convert religiously, it takes time because you still live in a physical body. You got to break the addictions. So anything that happens overnight, it's probably not real. So if you're going to change yourself and become something other than what you are, something you want to be, expect to have to work for it. Because there's nothing in life that's actually worth having that doesn't have a cost associated with it. Sacrifice, effort, constant repeated rededication to things. In the end, it's worth it if you've chosen wisely as to what you want to do. I see these things on internet all the time, and man, are they true, but I wonder how many people reflect on them. It's trendy today to say that you're just a result of your environment. That's a lie. You can be influenced by your environment and the conditions in which you find yourself. But the idea that that determines who you're going to be as a person is a straight up lie. Who you end up being and the life you end up living is the consequence of your choices. The net cumulative total of your life choices. So if you're poor and you're in your 30s or 40s and you're what you consider poor, you've chosen to be poor, and I don't have any sympathy for you. And I'm assuming that you do not have a legitimate disability. Can't work. Now, I know he's an exception to the rule, but Stephen Hawking was very disabled and found a way to make a living. Good living. There's a quadriplegic out there. He's got no arms and no legs, and he makes a good living as a motivational speaker. Now, I know that you'll tell me that those are exceptions to the rule. In our society, they are. But why? I'm asking you a serious question. Why are those type of people the exception to the rule? Because the rule is that we all want to live lazy lives of luxury without having to work or suffer. And these people who succeed in spite of debilitating disabilities have chosen that they'll pay whatever price it takes to succeed in the direction that they want to succeed. People tell me that I think too much. That's because that's the direction I've chosen. I want to know the truth as best as I can understand it, which means that I have to cast a wide net. I need as many pieces of the puzzle as I can gather up to put them together so I can see the mosaic that forms the truth of the reality in which I live. And I have invested a great deal of time and effort in that direction. So when people look at me and they think I'm lazy in other directions or unsuccessful, because I don't make a crap ton load of money. And I don't have a skill set that ever probably will make me rich. To my wife's great, regret. But that's not what I was meant to do. That's not what I chose to do. I've never loved money. But boy, if you give me knowledge, show me where I can grab more wisdom. I'll hunt, I'll dig, I'll mine. Right now, at this point in my life, I want more virtue. I've realized looking back on my life, I have lived a licentious life, more so than what it should have been. I can't fix that, but I can make sure that whatever time I have left is lived better. That's the pursuit of happiness that the Constitution, or the Declaration rather, talks about. The righteous, moral, just, the life worth living on a moral, existential level, metaphysical level. What about you? What are your life choices? And how have they affected where you're at? How are they going to affect where you're going to go in this growing and increasing chaos around us, lawlessness. Something else I learned in my life is that happiness is a choice. One of the happiest times in my life, I've told this story before, was when I was living in a hole in the middle of a Saudi desert, or it's Saudi Arabia there, on the border of Kuwait. I was surrounded by my military brothers, and I literally lived in a hole. And at that point in time, we were lucky if we had one MRE a day to eat. We were all hungry. We were all thirsty. We were waiting on the people up in the general level to figure out what we were going to do and when we were going to do it. But we were happy. We had each other. We sat around. We played cards. We talked to each other. It was a simple life. And it was a happy life. I look back on it with fondness often because I was connected to people, really connected to other people. We got to know each other on a level that, even though we'd known each other for years, we got to know each other even better. You can choose to be happy no matter what your situation. Paul gave thanks in the jail. How is the jail that he's in much different than the desert I was in? I was free to walk away if I wanted to, but where the heck was I going to go? 60 miles in any direction was just more sand. That's it. I'm done. We're good for the day. We'll be here Wednesday. We've got We Who Are Lost Wednesday, and Friday we'll pick up on the second section of chapters 3 and 4 of our book study, The Unseen Realm. So for now, I'm just going to thank you for being here, for putting up with me for today. I pray that you get something out of our efforts here. If I'm wasting your time, please go find somebody else who feeds you. Someone, somewhere, something that enriches and betters your life. And that's not entertainment TV. It's not entertainment media. That's not their purpose. Their purpose is to drag you down in the gutter, into this worldly affair. Look for something from above, something on a higher level, a higher plane, a higher order. Look for something more. And if we're doing it, praise Yahweh. I feel blessed. If we're not, please go find somebody who does that for you. Please. Something that helps you hold your sanity, that strengthens you, encourages you, helps you feel better about the world, but still, for all things holy, that will still help you deal with reality, not live in some sort of make-believe world. Don't hide from it. Be an adult. Grow up. No matter what age your body, we can always continue to grow. That's my wish for each and every one of you. We love you. We thank you for being here. And if we see you Wednesday, we'll see you Wednesday. If not, we'll be back again here next Monday. Until then, y'all stay safe and take care. Natasha, we're gone.